history. So, for example, was Pontius Pilate the governor of Judea? Or we saw that first century that he doesn't. The reason why he doesn't believe in the historicity of the crucifixion is based on a book 600 years after, where a man who was possessed by the demon, which is what I believe, told him this.
Was it necessary to bring this caveat, a man who's possessed by the demon? What emotional response are you trying to entice? This is not a civilized behavior. If you want to discuss crucifixion, don't bring, oh, he was possessed by whatever. Shame on you. Now, to answer your points, I asked contemporary evidence. So you are saying Corinthians, and you are suggesting to me Corinthians was written by Paul, if I'm not mistaken. And Paul didn't actually witness it himself, so he wasn't a contemporary first-hand witness. He got it from Peter and James. Sorry, that doesn't count as contemporary first-hand.
You don't accept the testimony of Jesus.
You're not listening. I have not finished. I have not finished.
Let him finish and then you say. Otherwise we're not going to get...
You have no first-hand witness of anyone saying, I saw it and they've written it. You have Paul saying, oh, I got it from X, Y, Z. They have witnessed the crucifixion. That, to me, is not a direct evidence, right? This is a crucial matter because your whole religion, correct me if I'm not mistaken, your whole religion revolves around the death and crucifixion of Christ. That means the standard of evidence needs to be very, very high. What you're bringing, instead of saying, this is the writing of Peter, who witnessed crucifixion, this is the writing of James, who witnessed crucifixion, you're giving me Paul, who didn't even meet Jesus in his lifetime. He's a self-appointed, self-declared individual who says, I have received revelation from Christ. We don't consider people who haven't even seen Christ, and someone says, I know everything Christ said. Christ gave me all these things to me. So what you have is not a first-hand evidence. You have second, third evidence. Do you have anything first-hand to provide? I'm offering you again the chance to an opportunity. Okay. Anything first-hand.
Okay. I quoted an oral creed that was passed on from the disciples of Jesus, then which the Apostle Paul recorded in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, which is accepted by the majority of biblical scholars. These two disciples, which the oral creed comes from, buried Jesus' dead body. What kind of evidence do you want? Give me contemporary evidence of Muhammad splitting the moon. Okay. Same. So give me contemporary evidence.
Yeah, but that's another issue.
So now we are debating crucifixion.
If you apply that
now,
criteria to the life of
excuse me, we're not debating.
We're not debating, brother.
Okay, see you later. See you later. See you later, paper.
You're not heckling. We're not talking about the prophet now.
Thank you very much. Now, so now as you've realised, he's saying...
What did he say?
He's saying this was an oral creed transmitted to Paul. That's the summary.
From eyewitnesses.
Right? Thank you.
From eyewitnesses.
Yes. Crucifixion. Welcome salam, brother. So,
from eyewitnesses.
Yeah. So my point is, crucifixion is a very well-attested historical rumor. That's my stance. I don't have a problem being well-attested rumor, but it's not the reality. What you are saying, you have evidence for it. So where is the contemporary first-hand evidence? Instead you're saying it's a creedal, oral creed passed on. Now, when you have an oral creed passing on, we're talking about transmission. When something is transmitted from one individual to the other, you need to connect that they met each other, for example, they've heard each other from, and also the person that is being transmitted to. Peter transmits to Paul. Is Paul trustworthy? Did he have a good memory? Was he honest? Was he a man of integrity? These needs to be established, first of all, because Paul is hearing from them through oral transmission. Yeah? Okay. My 4 questions.
Stick to one question. Stick to one.
One question, which is for part A, B, and C. One question. Okay. Paul's integrity, right? Was Paul one with a good memory, so he recollects exactly what was told to him, transmitted to him? Was he an honest individual? Did he ever lie? Did he never lie or deceive? Okay, and was he man of a good character? Before you say, I take Paul's testimony, we need to test him, whether he's reliable and trustworthy. So provide all this evidence before you move on to the next stage.
Yes. So, nothing to do with the Quran now. Only stick to the question.
So Galatians chapter 1 verse 18. Paul says that he went and stayed with Cephas, and the word there he uses is historistori, which means to be acquainted with knowledge. It is a historical fact which all biblical scholars affirm that the disciples of Jesus literally, which your Quran, by the way, calls Muslims, I don't know how, literally believed in Jesus' crucifixion. So we have the testimony of the disciples of Jesus. We also have Mark's Gospel. Mark's Gospel is the memoirs of the Apostle Peter, who recited, and then his amanuensis Peter wrote this down.
No problem.
So Peter, the Gospel of Mark, which comes from Jesus' disciple Peter, talks about the crucifixion of Jesus. Let me ask you a question. Can you provide any historical evidence that Jesus was not crucified?
Yes, the question.
Yes, I will provide.
Can I ask you a question before all this happened? Because I was done. You
Yeah, but let me-
Yeah, but now.
Right.
Ijaz, I'm debating.
No. Ijaz, look.
No.
That's the question now.
Listen.
So you tell him.
I am going to.
With all due- can I talk?
No. You can debate. Look, you can discuss Ijaz. We can discuss Ijaz. I would be happy for you to discuss with Ijaz. But the one question I asked, enough of the introduction. I'm giving you a chance again. Can you answer the question that I asked? Then we move on.
I just have.
What's the
I gave you the
what is
evidence.
hang on, what is the question that I asked? Can you remind him about Paul?
Basically, the reliability of Paul.
The reliability of Paul.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The reliability of
That
Paul.
he has a good memory. He was an honest man. Never lies, never deceives. He's a good character and man of integrity.
If we're going to take Paul seriously,
Yes. Thank you.
We don't need a running commentary.
I think we do.
you do.
It helps. It helps.
It helps.
Okay, we have excellent church tradition that the Apostle Paul and the Apostle Peter died as brothers in arms in Rome. And so Peter accepted Paul as a legitimate disciple of Jesus. So Peter, who was a disciple of Jesus, accepted Paul as a man of good honor, as a man of good integrity. Why should we doubt him? And if we're paying to the same standards, the main narrator in your Quran, the Hafs Quran, is a guy called Hafs bin Sulaiman. According to your own Islamic scholars, Hafs bin Sulaiman was a liar and a thief who fabricated things against the Messenger of Allah.
I have to stop you there.
And Muhammad
I have to stop you
himself,
there.
the Prophet of Allah, also fabricated things against Allah by saying about the three goddesses.
What's your name, by the way?
Ruslan.
Ruslan. Sorry to stop you there. I
I'm
asked
just
you.
holding you to your own standard.
No. Look, it's not about
Hold
standards.
your
First of all,
standard.
when you talk about like compared to Islamic traditions and histories, without having knowledge of these, obviously, clearly, you just heard something from someone.
No, you're Islamic
listen,
scholars.
you're regurgitating out. I am simply asking you to stick to the topic, which obviously clearly you aren't. Every opportunity that you're responding,
I'm just applying you-
excuse me,
just to your own
Ruslan, you're all the same. Speakers corner, you're all the same. You have to somehow insult the Prophet, insult Islam, and mockery and so on and so forth. Now that's become your
So one
trademark.
of your caliphs insulted the gods of
Ruslan,
the
I'm
pagans.
talking.
What's wrong with that?
Ruslan, I'm talking. So it's become your trademark here, right? Your trademark. So maybe that's how you will be known in the future. This is how Christians are in their behavior. The only thing that you need to change is this, the approach that you're using. So I asked you about Paul's integrity, then I'm going to give over to Ijaz, because Ijaz nodded his head when you said,
But I was talking to
listen. Speak to people of knowledge. Hang on. You can ask him as many questions.
You're very intelligent.
I'm talking about knowledge. I'm not talking about intelligence. Don't you realize?
Are you not a
Excuse me. I'm saying on this topic, I am saying speak to someone who knows. But the question I asked you about Paul's reliability, you're saying they died together with each other, Peter and Paul, or something like this. I said, do you have anything to corroborate, testify that he was a man possessor of good memory? Obviously you haven't got anything given me so far yet. I've asked this question so many times. Good memory. Not being dishonest, always being honest and of good character and integrity. You haven't given me anything, because we know the contrary. When Paul says, to a Jew I'm a Jew, to a Gentile I'm a Gentile. Hang on. Let me speak.
Paul said we do not use deceptive.
Excuse me.
That's what Paul said.
Look, when he says to a Jew I'm a Jew, to a low person who is abiding in a low person, and so on and so forth, it's very clear what it means. You will twist it away from its rightful context. So, where is your character witness for Paul? Once you answer that, I am happily handing over to Ijaz, who's knowledgeable in the subject, and you can discuss, because he said he doesn't agree with you what you just said.
I was initially talking with you, now you're handing it over.
Initially wanted to talk
I don't want to debate with you with all due respect for my own reasons. I'll tell you why if the audience wants to hear.
We can say it all by as well, but I know this topic very well, and what you said was incorrect, absolutely.
But the thing is, you say it's incorrect, but for example,
I'll give you
he made a video.
Why do you say it's incorrect? Should we let Law? Why do you say it's incorrect?
He made a video that was published on his channel, EF Dawah, called something, The Textual Transmission of the New Testament, or something like that, part 1. Okay. And this video was analysed by a Christian apologist by the name of Keith Thompson.
Is that true?
Ijaz Ahmad, in that talk, said, and I quote, he was trying to discredit Petrine authorship of the epistles. And he said, we have a New Testament scholar called Professor Marcus Bockmuir, who is a conservative scholar, and he used those words as if this is a guy who's a conservative scholar, not a liberal scholar, and comes to the conclusions that the 2 epistles weren't written by Peter. Keith Thompson actually emailed Professor Marcus Bockmuir and asked him, have you ever identified as a conservative scholar? He says, no, I was never identified as a conservative. So with all due respect, and this is just one out of a plethora of lies which you used in that, so that's why I don't feel comfortable with you, because one second, I know you're very knowledgeable, but the problem with your knowledge, you can twist things, and I've only been studying this for a limited amount of time.
You need to defend your honor now.
Hold on, let me defend my honor here. Subhanallah, he says he will not debate me because I'm a liar, and I'm a liar because I described a man as conservative and he wasn't. If that's the greatest lie he can give, then I'm a saint.
It's still a lie.
But it's a mistake I made.
It's still a lie.
Substantive.
Give me something more substantive.
Your argument is Paul wasn't untrustworthy, so if you've been proven to be untrustworthy, he has the right to then not engage with your comments.
Yeah, but that's just one small
No,
thing.
it doesn't matter how small it is. He wouldn't be
making a point. We have
if you have
So let me speak. So hold on, I can answer that accusation very easily. Wallahi, I got that book recommendation from a New Testament scholar who is a conservative from the New Orleans Baptist. Shut up, I'm speaking.
Yes, let him speak then, because look at your face. You know, just
don't interrupt me. It's very simple. He's calling me a liar, so let me correct you. Let me correct you. So I got it from a scholar, New Testament scholar, published by Brill on the New Testament from the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. He recommended that book to me, and this. Let me finish. Dude, come on, right? And in that message he sent to me, he described Marcus Bockmuir as a conservative scholar, and he himself was a conservative scholar. So I trusted a Christian, and I was wrong. I will not make a mistake again. Now you said you don't.
What are the other things?
Right. So what are the other? Hold on, no. Hold on. I'll make this easy for you. You just made claims about the New Testament, its transmission, about Mark, Matthew, Peter, Paul. So I call you a liar for what you have said, because I could prove you wrong publicly with evidence in front of you. So are you here to defend what you've just said, or are you a coward and you will run? It's very simple. I put the proposition to you.
I'll defend what I said.
Let's defend it. Make your claim again. Make it again. Make it point by point. Make it point by point.
Make it a bit bigger so we will all listen. It's quite enjoyable talk, hopefully. Yeah. I'm sure it will be much.
Secular friendship. Let's all hug and kiss. Right.
Cartoon's gone. You're safe now.
Ready?
Go.
So the crucifixion of Jesus is the most well-established fact of ancient antiquity, as stated by 99.9%. I can't even think of a person, a historian, that says the crucifixion of Jesus isn't a fact.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can do it.
And the only people that do say it's a fact is people who believe that Jesus never existed, and people who say that Jesus never existed, they're a fringe minority of a minority which the mainstream doesn't take seriously. My point is that the disciples of Jesus Christ, which your Quran calls Muslims, believed and buried Jesus' dead body in the tomb. So we have attestation by the disciples of Jesus, which your Quran calls good Muslims, that somehow preserved the message of Jesus, which they actually didn't. That's evidence. Evidence number 2, we have a parable which even liberal scholars of the Jesus Seminar believe is a historical thing, which the Jesus of Nazareth actually quoted. That's the parable of the vineyard, where Jesus says that he will be killed. So Jesus is prophesying his own death. So we have Jesus prophesying his own death. we have the attestation of Jesus' disciples, we have the attestation of Roman historians, of Jewish historians, of Jesus' enemies. Tacitus hated Christians. If he wanted to, he could have shut these pesky Christians up, because Christians in the first century were saying, look, Jesus died for our sins. Tacitus hated Christians, and if he wanted to, he could have said, no, this is actually a lie, but he never says anything, because he knew, as a historian who did his proper historical work, that the death of Jesus is 100% true within a historical context. So the only reason why you reject this is based on a book written 600 years after that time by a man who was, by his own admission, was under a black magic curse which gave him sexual delusions of him having sex with an imaginary woman. This is the reason why you reject the crucifixion, because of what that man said.
Okay.
Okay. Bismillah, salatu wassalam ala Rasulullah. You may begin.
Start, yeah?
Start,
Go, you go.
Right, now, right. So the question was simple. I asked him to make his point, and he gave us 3 evidences historically for the crucifixion. The first he gave was testimony from the disciples. You have no testimony from the disciples, nothing extant to the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd century CE. Let me make this point very easily. He claimed that Mark was the scribe of Peter. Who does he get this from? He gets this from Papias or Papias, whatever you want to call him. But Papias also says that Mark was written out of order. You read Mark today, which is the gospel that's out of order? Not the gospel of John? So if your earliest witness is unreliable, then you've proven that he's not trustworthy. Secondly, and I'll mention this point as well, Eusebius in the 4th century says that Papias was confused and got it wrong. So I'm not making that claim. I am not the unreliable one. Eusebius is attesting to Papias being wrong, so your appeal to that early tradition is false. Secondly, you appealed to the vineyard statement, which is an early, creedal statement, right? We know that's false. Let me explain why. That understanding is based on what we call liberal scholarship. Under liberal scholarship, you take a piece of literature and you break it up into authorial profiles. You look for trends in the way that person speaks and writes. So what they have done is they have acknowledged that there were many editors to the text of Paul. And then because there were many editors, they traced the language to be the most primitive in that specific place. So if you're going to argue that this creed or this phrase was early, then you don't understand how philology works. You can argue it's early or later. All the scholars are saying, the philologists, is that it's different from the normal authorial profile of Paul, so they cannot determine where or when it was written. The only criteria they used to say it was early was because of the primitive language, but that does not necessitate that it is early. Anyway, the Jewish historians don't matter. Tacitus, 9th century, Josephus, 11th and 13th. Just read the manuscripts and you'll see yourself.
Professor, this is absolutely ridiculous. He's conflating when the manuscripts come from to when they actually wrote it. Yes, we may have manuscripts of Tacitus in the 9th century, but that doesn't mean it wasn't written in the 1st century AD. And this is what you're confusing. All biblical historians on the planet today believe all 4 of the Gospels were written between 30 to 60 years after the time of Jesus. And according to scholars like Professor Richard Bauckham, Mark's Gospel was based on Peter's testimony. Peter was a disciple of Jesus. The book of Galatians, which no historian, not that I know of, even Bart Ehrman accepts, Galatians chapter 1 verse 18 is an authentic passage of Paul, and Paul is saying that he met the disciples of Jesus that acquainted with him knowledge and told him that Jesus was crucified. So the disciples believed in Jesus' literal crucifixion. The only people who denied Jesus' crucifixion in the 1st century AD was someone who called the Gnostics. The Gnostics believed that Jesus couldn't die because he didn't have a physical body, so you can't kill something that's not physical. Jesus couldn't eat, Jesus couldn't sleep, and these are the people that believe that Jesus didn't die. But apart from that, the mainstream belief that Jesus did die on the cross. The parable of the vineyard, again, it's an interesting passage, and even liberal scholars say this is something which Jesus actually said. Also, we have Papias of Hierapolis, which he quoted. Why should we doubt? Please bring me your source where Papias lied or something. I don't know what you're on about, but Papias met John the Elder, who knew the disciples of Jesus. So we have a chain of transmission from Papias that goes to Jesus' disciples. We also have the testimony of Polycarp, who knew John. We also know the testimony of Ignatius of Antioch. Both Ignatius of Antioch and Polycarp were students of the Apostle John, and they both believe in Jesus' crucifixion.
That was it?
How many guys got anything left?
No, that's it. Okay.
2 seconds.
Right, I think you said what Polycarp was a student of John?
Yes.
Okay, Polycarp's. I'm just writing it down because I don't want to get off track, right? Of John. All right. I think it was 339. You asked me for my source. I haven't begun. I'm just clarifying, right? 339.
What's that thing about Eusebius you said?
I'll get to. I'm getting it now for you. I got it from. What's it? Chapter 339. Section page. I want to be fair to him, so I'm going to give it to him. You know what I mean? Find page 39. Okay.
Now let me tell you what immortal is. Immortal is someone never ever either physically, spiritually, whatever you want. In any way, that can only be done by the Spirit. The difference between
Right, 39. Okay, all right, give me 1 sec. 1 sec.
If you find the reference, and when
the
he talks, you
reference.
can start, yeah?
regardless of whether his soul lives on or not, we still consider
Okay, you may begin. 1 sec.
Tell him when you're ready.
1 sec. I just want to be fair. I'm going to give you the exact quote, right?
You ready?
1 sec.
Let him get the code.
Yeah, I don't want to be unfair. Hold on, 1 sec.
Can I just say I've got a bus that I need to catch soon to the north.
Okay, no
I've still got
problem.
some
Okay,
time.
all right. So I'll quote the reference after. Let me get to your points, right? So your points are this. Your first, right, you may begin.
ready?
Yeah, you may begin. Right. So his first point was Galatians 1:18 is authentic. Again, I bring you back to, I'm not asking you for the conclusions of others, right? Because if we were just to adopt the conclusions of others and the earth is flat and the sun is inside the dome, I'm not going to do that, right? What is upon us is that we must judge the evidence that lead to the conclusions. We are not a people just to take conclusions. So I'm putting it towards you. The philologists say because the text is different from the normal Pauline style of writing, it means that it's from a different author. So you have to make a concession here. Philologists. You said Galatians 1:18 and the other one that you mentioned as well with the creed. I'll get to the Vineyard Creed, right? So I'm putting it forward to you. If you're going to accept the conclusions of the philologists,
Padre's calling you.
right. If you're going to accept the conclusions of the philologists, then you must accept the presumption of the science, which is that the New Testament books weren't written by one author but by multiple anonymous editors. So if you're going to appeal to that, then you need to follow through on your argument. Secondly, you said I conflated the date of the extant manuscripts with original authorship, referring to Tacitus and Josephus. No, I didn't expand my argument fully, but it's simple. You can't appeal to, I never said it wasn't a first century work, but I'm saying to you the version that exists today is from 900 years later. You said earlier to Mansur, how can you accept the Quran 600 years later? But you wouldn't accept Tacitus from 900 years later. Same thing with Josephus, 11th and 13th century. You said that, Tacitus would have written things against the Christians. We don't know what he originally transmitted.
30 seconds.
Yeah, you don't know what he original transmitted. So textual criticism needs to be done to that. And in any case, the end conclusion will be an authorial profile. That's hypothetical. Lastly, you said Polycarp was a student of John. How we know this is false is that Polycarp never once quotes the Gospel of John, and he never says which John he met. He just said he met a John. It could be John the Presbyter, it could be John the Elder, John of Patmos. We don't actually know historically. That's it?
Yeah, exactly.
Can I have 2 seconds just to look at some stuff?
Yeah, give him time.
Yeah.
2 seconds, right? Go.
No, he's joking. Yeah, I didn't give him the Eusebius reference. So give me a sec.
I can't remember what I said now.
That's what I was writing down.
Just remind me what you said, just a quick summary. Sorry, I've had a long
Okay, yeah, you're wrong. I'm joking. Right, so I told you if you're going to accept the conclusions of philology, then you need to understand how the science works and what it actually states. Right, the other thing was conflating Tacitus and Josephus' original writing date. And the last one was...
Which John?
Yeah, which John he actually says he knew. And Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah. Did I leave
Those
out
were the
anything?
3 points you made.
Yeah.
Polycarp.
Man, 2 minutes is so short.
Yeah, so extend it to more longer. So
No,
you can have
he has a bus to go. I'm not going to keep him here. But
So he's making this sound like
are you going?
Yeah, go.
So he's making it sound like that because we have later manuscripts that we can't possibly know what the earlier ones is. According to actual textual critics like Professor Craig L. Blomberg, we can accurately reconstruct the entirety of a New Testament with a 99% accuracy. Also, in a past few videos, he said that the title, the inscription of Matthew was added later on, because in the 2nd century there was no title, but further on there were titles saying Evangelion or Matteo. But that's not true. We have a flyleaf that has this that comes from the 2nd century AD. And so again, that's not true. We also have, and he says, Justin Martyr talks about the memoirs of the Apostle John. Justin Martyr was a disciple of the Apostle John, and he believed that in the crucifixion. Then what else? My mouth is dry.
John.
Polycarp and John.
Polycarp.
Which John?
Polycarp does identify, as far as I think, I'll have to get the quote, but he does identify the John as a disciple, and I'm pretty sure of that. I just need
he doesn't.
to get some evidence.
I looked at the Greek myself.
For the next one, I'm
About
actually...
John, you didn't know which
Yeah, Galatians chapter 1. How long do I have?
30 seconds.
Okay. Professor Bart Ehrman, in his debate against Robert Price, a well-known mysticist, quoted Galatians chapter 1:18, and he believed in its authenticity, that the Apostle Paul knew the disciples of Jesus that knew the crucifixion of Jesus. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, according to biblical scholars, does not originate from the Apostle Paul because the language is different. Rather, this was an oral creed that was given to him, and he's passing it down in paper form. And the 2 disciples that are named in that is Peter and James. So Peter and James believed in the crucifixion.
Time.
Okay.
Okay, you may begin. Right, so you made a mistake again. Dr. Simon Gattercole did redate the inscription for the title of Matthew. We know that is incorrect. You can't reduce it to the 2nd century because it's paleographic dating. Dr. Brent Nungby, in his magnificent new book, God's Library, goes into this into detail, and it demonstrates that the early New Testament papyri cannot reliably be dated to the 2nd century, but to the 3rd and 4th. So it's very simple. He even does this with our P75 and Codex Vaticanus. So if you're going to quote Simon Gattercole, you need to be acquainted with your opposing opinions. I told this to Keith himself, and he was not able to understand it. He replied to me, there are actually other opinions. He doesn't know the competing opinions, so don't appeal to him. Secondly, you said that Bart Ehrman accepts Galatians 1:18. I don't care what Bart Ehrman says or doesn't say. I care about the evidence. Bart Ehrman says Jesus is not God. Are you going to worship him God now? Are you going to stop worshipping Jesus as God because Bart Ehrman says otherwise? You said the oral creed passed down to Paul. Again, I put it forward to you. If you accept the science of philology, the only conclusion you can come to is that it was different from Paul. Whether it's earlier or later is a polemical argument. You need to demonstrate that it's later, it's earlier, and you need to explain why. The scholars say that it's earlier only because the language in it is very primitive. But we know that not to be the case because they're what we call anacaluton in the New Testament, like Revelation chapter 1 verse 4. They have incomplete primitive language, and the scholars agree that, you know what, it's incomplete. So if you're going to use the science of philology to bring arguments to conclusions, you need to understand the science first. Otherwise you're just appealing to authorities that you don't understand.
20 seconds.
Right. You didn't get back to my point on, let me read for you what Eusebius says. The same writer gives also other accounts which he says came to him through unwritten tradition, certain strange parables and teachings of the Savior, and some other mythical things. I don't say that, Eusebius. No, Paul.
Eusebius says about who?
Papias.
Let's have a look.
Where does it say that? 3 seconds over.
He says more. Go down to 13 as well. And he also says he was a PS of limited understanding. That's what he's talking about.
I'm telling you that we didn't copy your book. Because your book.
Can I just read that 1 second?
Okay. Just don't check my pictures. It's a joke, but people can laugh, you know.
You know what's good?
I'm handsome.
You email him your questions, he emails you his answers, then you have your debate.
No. What time do we want to leave?
how long was your meeting?
Okay, because
He's going to go anyway, so he's going to finish soon.
I'm on so many churches now, so I'm just.
Somebody what?
You're all on microphone attached to you.
Medicinal. How much
I'll have to check that.
Okay, right, but okay. Do you want to respond to me? I mean, do you remember the points I made?
Go on, tell them quickly your points.
Who started first and who started?
You started first.
So does that mean you have to end?
I could, and I would rather. So
We'll leave it at there for now because I've got a bus to catch.
Can I just give you one quote then? One quote. Can I just give you one quote? I just want to hear your response to it, right? It's on my website. Hold on. All right. So, guys, I'm reading from Eusebius, right? And he's writing in his work, The Preparation for the Gospel, Book 12. Chapter 31. This is what he says, that it will be necessary sometimes to use falsehood as a remedy for the benefit of those who require such a mode of treatment. And when he goes on to about the Gospels, he says, but even if the case were not such, as our argument has not proved it to be, if a lawgiver who is to be of ever so little use could have ventured to tell any falsehood at all to the young for their good, is there any falsehood that he could have told more beneficial than this, referring to the gospel, and better able to make them do everything that is just, not by compulsion but willingly? So the Greek, according to this, he's saying that it's okay to have useful lies.
Who says?
Eusebius.
Eusebius
Says okay to have.
Eusebius says okay.
For the preparation of the Gospels, the title of that book, the title of the chapter is that it will be necessary sometimes to use falsehood as a remedy for the benefit of those who require.
Can you respond? Can you
I'll
respond just to that?
I'll just read because he made the same point and Keith Thompson addresses. Let me read this. This is from his article. Ahmed's final argument is a distortion of the words of the 3rd and 4th century historian Eusebius. Ahmed claims Eusebius appeals to Plato to endorse lying and falsehood. However, Professor Mike Licona and Professor Gary Habermas have already refuted a misuse of this quotation in a lengthy discussion. Eusebius merely affirmed it is okay for God to use anthropomorphic language if it is result in the benefit of humanity. Well, the Quran uses anthropomorphic language for Allah as well. Does Allah really believe has little hands and a little throne encompassing the heavens and the earth? Or will Ahmed affirm Quran chapter 42 verse 11, which says nothing is truly like Allah, and therefore take these as symbolically? He needs to be consistent and condemn the Quran if he's going to condemn Eusebius and the Bible for permitting anthropomorphic language. If you carefully read the Eusebius quote in question, Plato did not even encourage lying. Licona and Habermas correctly summarized. All he said was he believes he is still correct in his belief, but even if his belief is still expedient. And all Eusebius said was the Hebrew writers attributed human qualities to God to explain why we should not worship other gods, and the reason behind this. Even in the very quote Ahmed cited, those are commended, and truth, O stranger, is a noble and a. So basically, when the Bible talks about God having wings, that in a sense it is a lie because God doesn't have wings, but it's a metaphorical way, and this is what Eusebius is talking about.
You finished?
I actually have to go.
Okay, hold on. Let me just 30 seconds, right? So I knew about that quote, and let me tell you how Gary Habermas and Michael Licona translate that term. This is quote for quote. It may be helpful to look at the Greek employed. The word used by Plato is pseudos, which typically means a lie or imitation. Let me go on. He says, however, Plato's context, so now this is Habermas and Licona, and the passage may justify a nuance for the following reasons. One, Plato uses the term good lie, eliminating harmful intent. So it's still a lie, it's just a good one. And not finished, he continues, one translator renders the term as useful fiction instead of falsehood.
Fiction. So let me give an Islamic example. When the Prophet Muhammad said Allah has 2 right hands, I believe that Muslims are intelligent people and they don't believe God has literally right hands. But he's using a useful lie.
A language device is not
using a language device, and this is what the
language device is not a lie.
What Eusebius is talking.
Anyways, I have to
go.
Actually, genuinely,
so I'll just make the point.
This is not about lying, about to deceive people. It's about
you made a mistake. You made a mistake. The mistake is, hold on. Right. The mistake is that it's not about describing God. It's about fiction within the Gospels that have nothing to do with the nature of God. It's useful to lie once it brings you to the conclusion.
Talking about just the anthropomorphic attributes of saying God has wings. Obviously, God doesn't have wings, so in that sense, it is a lie, but still just a metaphorical device.
Right. So a language device. So a lie is a language device.
In one sense, yes. That's all.
Right, thank you.
Conclusion?
Right. Conclusion. Right. I guess people want conclusions. Okay. I want to thank whatever his name was. I don't even know. Right. This one. Are you EF Dawa?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway. Right. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. Right. So, right. Just to conclude it, right? Guys. Let me finish. Right. Really quickly. Plato uses the word agato sudestai. He refers to false gods and anthropomorphic language. That is correct. But when it comes to the New Testament use, it's different because we understand the distinction between a metaphor as a language device and a lie. We all can discern between the two. So the way in which Eusebius uses it is different from the way in which Plato uses it. And this is what Habermas and Icona record, that the meaning is still useful fiction. That is the point. We're not talking about the nature of God. They're also speaking about the Gospels itself and the details within them. Myths and fictions, lies and imitations. I don't say that. Habermas and Icona did. That's what I have to say. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
In terms of